Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. In response to speculation and heated debate over blessing same-sex unions in Germany, Rome has spoken, reiterating the Church's perennial teaching. The Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith said on Monday that the Church does not have the authority to bless same-sex unions. This comes as a response to a doctrinal question that was presented earlier. Pope Francis authorised the publication of the response, as well as the explanatory note signed by the Prefect Cardinal Luis Ladaria Ferrer and Secretary Archbishop Giacomo Morandi. However, the prohibition of blessing does not imply judging the individuals involved, who must be welcomed with compassion, avoiding discrimination. This echoes the papal encyclical Amoris Laetitia, which speaks of assisting those with homosexual orientation to, quote, understand and fully carry out God's plan. Whether it is the pandemic, climate change or matters pertaining to the family, Pope Francis has words of wisdom that are both practical as well as profound. Now, his lengthy interview granted to Italian journalist Domenico Agasso on a whole range of contemporary issues, ranging from the pandemic crisis and caring for the earth to gender equality and weapons trafficking, has been published as a book in Italian titled Dio e il mondo che verrà, or God and the World to Come. Brought out by the Vatican Publishing House, the book hit bookstores on March the 16th. In it, the Pope says the world will never be the same again, adding that the COVID crisis can be an opportunity for mankind to think of building a better world. At a time when the debate on euthanasia is going on in Europe, the top court of Portugal has made a bold stand by upholding the sanctity of life. On Monday, the Constitutional Court rejected a bill passed in Parliament to legalise euthanasia. On January the 29th, the Parliament voted in favour of a bill that permitted physician-assisted suicide for the terminally ill and gravely injured people above the age of 18. Following this, President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, who himself is a Catholic, referred the bill to the Constitutional Court, which rejected it, saying some clauses go against the principle of the inviolability of life. Now, the Parliament will review the legislation while taking the Court's concerns into consideration and then place it before the President for approval. If he signs it, Portugal will become the fourth European nation to legalise euthanasia. The Asian nation of Myanmar has been marred by unrest since the February the 1st military coup. Protest rallies have been brutally crushed by security personnel, often ending in bloodshed and the loss of lives. Despite being a minority in the predominantly Buddhist country, the Catholic Church in Myanmar is a glimmer of hope in the struggle for democracy in the country. Now, the Holy See's mandate to continue peace efforts has come as a shot in the arm to the Church in Myanmar. After more than 35 protesters were killed by security personnel on March the 14th, Myanmar bishops have issued a statement appealing for peace and pledging to help the nation rise again in mutual understanding. Signed by Cardinal Charles Maung Bo, who heads the Episcopal Conference, the statement also refers to the message of Vatican's Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, reaffirming Pope Francis's fraternal solidarity with the Myanmarese in their hour of crisis. For a nation deeply divided along sectarian lines after decades of civil war, a Catholic prelate has emerged as a great sign of reconciliation and the rallying point of efforts to rebuild lives. Cardinal Beshara al-Rai, Patriarch of the Maronite Church in Lebanon, is acting as a bridge between Muslims and Christians, and now his role as a mediator has been endorsed by the Interreligious Committee for Citizenship, Diversity and Complementarity, which is headed by former Prime Minister Fuad Siniora. The committee, which was formed in 2017 after the Al-Azhar declaration of Pope Francis and Grand Imam Ahmed El-Tayeb, has expressed support for the Patriarch's proposal regarding the neutrality of Lebanon amid armed conflicts between states and politics of factions. Siniora has appealed to citizens of all communities to welcome the initiatives of the Cardinal. Perhaps for the first time in modern history, Britain went under a total lockdown on March the 23rd, 2020 to stem the spread of the raging pandemic, bringing life to a standstill. Many religious institutions, including churches and other places of worship, were largely closed. Now, a year later, the British government has declared March the 23rd as a national day of reflection, urging people to observe a minute's silence at noon. Going a step further, the Catholic bishops of England and Wales have decided to commemorate it as a day of prayer. Cardinal Vincent Nichols of Westminster and Archbishop Malcolm McMahon of Liverpool, acting in their roles as President and Vice President of the Episcopal Conference, have exhorted the faithful to enter a church on this day to reflect and pray in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament. Finally, Faith-based foster care and adoption providers in the United States are pinning their hopes on the Child Welfare Provider Inclusion Act of 2021 in order to protect their religious freedom. The act, which prevents the federal government and any state receiving federal funds for child welfare services from taking adverse action against a provider that declines to conduct its services in a manner that would violate its religious or moral principles, was introduced in both chambers of Congress by Representative Mike Kelly and Senator Tim Scott on March the 10th. Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Archbishop Paul Coakley and Bishop David Conderla, who head 3 committees of the US Episcopal Conference, said the act would remedy unjust discrimination and, quote, maximise the benefit to thousands of children in need. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow. In the meantime, you can visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.